Tabletopped will start after the following messages.
Are you looking for something comfortable to wear and keep your brain warm while playing tabletop games? Daily Dose of Yarn makes handmade, customized beanies for all of your style and comfort needs. She can even help you with a custom beanie to represent your favorite character. Check out Daily Dose of Yarn on Instagram and Etsy to order your new favorite beanie today.
Welcome to Aurea, a country that is renowned for research and progress, a country that prides itself on its advancements and achievements, that opens doors to futures that would otherwise remain closed to its populace of diverse and charming people. However, some say that some doors may be better left unopened. When four strangers encounter a rogue automaton, they unknowingly begin to unravel tightly kept secrets about their worlds. Armed with little true knowledge, but unfathomable curiosity, these four strangers reach out into the unknown. But will they come back from this perilous journey holding the truth? Or will they be holding on to the reality they think they know? Join Ivy, Varys, Alara, and Ziva as they dig into the secrets of Aurea and what lies beyond the edge. We are the Rainbow Dice Club, a 5e actual play podcast. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Rainbow Dice Club to keep up with all our adventures.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Nick, your host, here to tell you that you are all awesome, and we have a great show for you today. We're going to be talking about tips, tricks, and pitfalls to avoid for new and aspiring GMs. I know a lot of people say, in the new year, I want to run a game for my friends or my local game shop, but I'm a little nervous because I've never run a game before. Let me just first say, you are awesome. You're the best. This is a great aspiration. You're going to have a blast. Listen to the episode. We're going to try to make the process and the learning curve itself a little bit easier for you. But first, before we get into the episode, I made a promise in the old year that I would read out any review that comes in through Apple Podcasts. I am nothing if not a man of my word, so here we go. This review is from Lorelei Faye, who says, "This show is amazing. A great resource for GMs, current and aspiring, and just fun for TTRPG fans." Anyway, that's the end of the review. Unrelated, I just want to let all listeners know that I, Nick, am a big doo-doo head who isn't even good at D&D anyway. Lorelei, this is slander. You'll be hearing from my lawyer. Just kidding. I don't have a lawyer. What am I, a millionaire? And I've heard through the grapevine that Lorelei is amazing. Super cool, super fun, really great at parties. So if she's saying it, then it has to be true, right? Right? Anyway, I'll talk about it with my therapist and everyone else. I hope you enjoy the show. Welcome back to Tabletop, everyone. Today we are going to be talking about how to GM for the first time. We talked about how to be a player and how to, make your first character, what you should be looking for at a table. Now we're going to be talking about for that person who really wants to step in and actually create a session for some players for the first time, but feels nervous, what we suggest they do. So who's at the table with me today? You're going to find a lot of the same people because I'm looking at them and I think it's all the same folks, but let's introduce ourselves anyway.
It's Daniel. This is my first time.
Hi, it's Shade. I'm good. I'm here.
Hey, it's Franco.
Hey everyone, all here we are seasoned DMs, all having at least completed one campaign.
What's your seasoning?
Get out! Anger is my seasoning. So let's just start off with a basic question. What are the biggest things that people get scared of when they think about DMing for the first time? The big obstacles they put in their way, and what do you guys think about them?
Prepping, scheduling, and a third thing.
Public speaking, I think, is a big thing that people have a hard time with.
Yeah, I would throw, like improvising.
Because you have to talk a lot.
Yeah.
being a bunch of people at the same being everything to everyone.
Yeah.
Knowing everything.
Knowing everything.
Yeah, and it turns out you actually don't really have to do any of that, except
Not at
maybe improvising a little bit. But I think that those are all like some of the big parts of, except for scheduling. You do have to be, well, I guess you can make someone else schedule.
You can make someone else schedule.
That's the tip I'll give right out the gate. Set someone in your party to be the person who schedules shit. Don't make it everyone. Just one person does the scheduling. It'll make your life a lot better.
Yeah, I also think when you have a group, whether they're experienced or not, incentivize them in some way to participate in your game in a way that you are really looking for. Like if you want somebody to like note take so people remember certain names or whatever from session to session, you should be like, okay, one of you, like maybe you're in a party and one of you becomes the note taker of the party or something like that. So like if it's really essential to your game, that you incentivize that right out of the gate.
As a
the
control
map
freak,
maker.
I never trusted anyone to do that, which is why I've always just written the primers myself. Here's the important names of places, people, and things you've seen.
That's really funny because so the campaign that I ran for you guys, Argot, I wrote a recap every time, which was fun for me to write. Mm-hmm. And in this new campaign that I'm running for my Salem people, I started doing that. And then I told them, actually, you do the recap.
Yeah, I think that is important because I like to run a lot of mysteries in my different adventures. And I feel like by giving myself a narrative, like I am writing down what I thought was important that happened in the recap, you can kind of tip your hand unless that's something that you don't really mind. I think that that's smart by giving them something that you say like, what do you think was important essentially? And then you can kind of look at it yourself and say, oh, they're way off track, or like, oh, that they have a better idea than I had, and stuff like that.
Well, and I think, the question being like, these are the things that people are afraid of typically.
Yeah.
And I think like these ways of offloading things, I think one way that I've tried to use to incentivize people is by giving them inspiration. And I've stopped giving inspiration for goofy shit or having fun or whatever. Because you should be doing that on your own.
Yeah.
If you reward people interrupting to do like really random weird shit, then they're gonna keep doing it.
Well,
And
if you're
gonna derail your game if like the reward comes from who says the weirdest thing at the table.
Well, actually, let's start there. So, as a DM, we talked about some things that were like that a lot of people are afraid of, or kind of common things that people get, worried about before they start GMing their first game. I think that the actual thing that you need to worry about is how to set up a fun table. So what are like some tips and tricks that you guys have done in the past? You said like offloading things and then giving people inspiration for investing in your campaign in some way, being like a recap person or whatever. What are some other ways that you like generally create good vibes at the table?
I just create good vibes wherever I am. I don't know if I intentionally do it.
Oh man, Dan.
I put people at ease.
Yeah, that's so true. So true.
But one of the things I like to do is, I don't know if like it creates good vibes or not, or this answers your question, but if I'm running a game for new people or I'm starting, I make sure everyone gets 15 minutes of focus as I go around. Be like, okay, your character's doing this. Let's talk about that. And then try to move it around, because you do have people who won't speak up, and you have people who won't shut up.
Yeah.
So you gotta intentionally move the camera to make sure everyone gets a good solid RP turn.
Yeah.
Because combat's a sludge. Everyone gets their initiative order, but you also got to make sure that when you're not in combat, everyone's still taking their turn too. So be intentional with your focus.
And I think also leaning. Oh, sorry. What were you gonna say?
What's that?
Oh, also like leaning into whatever the genre is or the vibe and stuff. Like I had my characters recently in a big like catacomb where all the walls were made of bones. And it's like, hey, it's scary down here, but I said it in a more interesting way or whatever. And just bringing in like, oh, it's like a creepy like dark dungeon or whatever. And it's like, make it scary, or like make it like dangerous, like make it, like lean into whatever vibe you're going for. Like if you're doing like a city campaign and you're doing like some like fun role playing, like, just make them feel like this is the thing that they're playing in. Like this is like evocative of that genre. Which, you know, is not to say like you have to be very good at describing things, because oftentimes if you have a long wall of description text, people are not going to remember it. You need like a bullet point list of just like things that are there. It's like, it's dark, there's bones, the bones are all over the wall, and you keep hearing psychic messages in your head from a monster. And you know,
I'm gonna eat you. Oh, I'm coming up behind you.
well, just more like wordless, you know, madness and imagery that you know, kind of unsettles you and you know, maybe you know, hurts you or whatever. But yeah, like description doesn't have to be like this whole big thing and like a big sweeping thing or whatever. Like if that's not your bag, and if it is your bag, you know, pare it down and people will remember more of it. I promise.
I think with regards to the question of creating that vibe, obviously, you know, we talk about it constantly. It's all a collective storytelling experience when you're playing a TTRPG, whether that story is really drilled down to a specific narrative or if it's a larger overarching, hey, a war is happening and that's what this war game is. So we're playing that war out. It's still a story and you're doing it collectively. You, though, as a game master, are the facilitator of that story. And if you want your players to have fun, you need to be having fun. And there is nothing more interesting when you're listening to someone speak than listening to them talk about something they are passionate about. Mm-hmm. So make sure that what you're running is something that you're finding passion in, that you're putting passion towards, and it will show for the players and it will create a more fun vibe. You know, I am not very passionate about dungeon crawls, generally speaking. They can be fun, but sometimes they're just kind of sloggy to me. I didn't have a lot of fun with that section of the Waterdeep campaign that we played where I took us to the Dungeon of the Mad Mage, and I think you guys had an okay time, but I did not feel it, and I didn't feel that I was bringing that good vibe to those sessions. Whereas we've, you
know what I love?
Where do you live?
Goddamn bears.
Goddamn bears.
Put a bear in your campaign. Gotta liven it up.
All right.
Right away.
Before we get to just like random tips and tricks, let's talk also about, I think that like the paring down thing, Franco, that you said as well, and going to your vibe thing as well, Shade.
Yeah.
That both of those are really important basics when you're prepping. So like preparation is really important as a GM. There's some people like Shade who really love to make, you know, huge documents that have everything in them kind of thing. Then there are people like me where I make a map and I make a couple characters and usually I'm like, what year is it? What day is it? And that is fine both ways. Like I think that both of us have run very different but very fun campaigns. So I would encourage people not to look at starting a session as like a monumental task. It can be as simple as what Franco said, where get like key ideas, key words, key descriptions, write them down, bullet points, whatever. And then like Shade said, find that vibe that you're trying to evoke and the things that you really are excited to share with your players. And then make sure you hit those as well so that comes out in your campaign.
Let's talk a little bit about prepping, I think, because that's honestly, running the game is one thing, but there is so much importance to prepping. And, you know, I've said I'm a self-proclaimed over-prepper. Mm-hmm. Arguably, though, I probably prep less than you think. Or at least I hope I prep less than you think I do. Because if you know that I'm not prepping as much as I actually am, then it's bad. But I would say with all preparation, it's important to kind of like make sure you're ready to run this game. But I would recommend being ready to change everything on the fly. And that doesn't mean you have to be the biggest improver, but don't be too precious about what you've prepped.
Yeah, for me, prepping really comes down to having like index cards with monster stats, if that's the type of system you're running in. Important places, important names, maybe on a sheet. A map is super helpful for both you and the players to be like, okay, going over here. Or if, like Shade said, they go completely in a different direction than you thought, and they're like, oh, we're going to go see, McBoobleston over here. and you're like, oh, okay, well, you're over here. So
my pool was burned down 7 years ago.
and you like look on the map and you're like, okay, you're about half hour's walk away from that, and then you can go from there. So I like, for me, prepping really boils down to monster or monsters so that you can get them out and start playing them quickly. Like you said, if you have a bear in there that you're going to bring out, you better have a bear index card that you can not have to, stop.
You should just know the bear
action.
stats, like memorized. What are you
What's
doing?
the AC of a large bear?
13.
Wow.
You don't know if I'm right or wrong.
I actually think you are right. I'm pretty sure that is
But-
correct.
And also to that point, like with people in town that you've had NPCs, don't like try to script out encounters, but give them like 2 things they want and 1 thing they don't want.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then that way, whenever your party's interacting with them, you have like a little step ladder to use to like get them to a big encounter without. So you want to stay away from scripts as much as possible.
Yeah.
Don't pretend like something's going to happen.
Yeah, you're
Right.
not writing a novel.
Yeah.
Yes, you're not writing a novel. That's very important. There's a blogger that I've read a lot of his stuff from, the Alexandrian. I've probably mentioned it on the show before, and I might have even mentioned this quote, but he says, don't don't prep plots, prep situations.
Yeah.
Don't create like a dialogue tree for like, what if they do this? What if they do that? Do not do that. That way is madness.
Yeah.
And
they will never do any
they
of
will
the
never do
things
any of that. And I've definitely done that before.
They might do it.
They might do it, sure, and like you can have an idea of it, but don't plan everything out to like it's like inevitable end or whatever. Just be like, okay, well, yeah, like Danny was saying, like that's every NPC wants that, even the villains, even the henchmen. And then like the situation thing being like, I think how the Alexandrian sort of describing it, where it's like you are setting up this, like instead of like being like, okay, they're gonna like meet this big bad and he's gonna want this and then or whatever, just be like, well, there's this like situation that's over here, like this person wants this thing from this other person, or these 2 people like hate each other but they're both like powerful and influential, so maybe you'll help out one or maybe you'll help out the other one, and see what kind of stories emerge from the playing, rather than like trying to be like, well, I want it to go exactly this way, and I want just think of the key players in whatever world you're setting up, or even just the key locations and the key things that are there and stuff like that.
Yeah, for new players, new GMs too, I would really clarify at the beginning what I find it really helpful to think of time frame of like how long I want to be playing something. So if you are trying to start a campaign and this is your first time GMing, good for you. That's really ambitious and also like
tough nuts.
And I think that it's like totally doable. You should not be scared of just jumping in, but I would just set yourself I'm thinking of maybe like, a year-long campaign. And then when you do that initial prep, I would just say like, okay, this is the aspect of the world I'm going to explore in it, rather than I'm building out an entire entire cosmology of every possible thing that's happening and when it's happening. And like then your players only do a small part of it. I think that is just a lot of prepping. It can be really fun to do that. So do that if you want to. But if you're trying to prep for a campaign or something longer term, just set yourself a time frame and then try to keep yourself to it and say like, okay, this is the part of the world I want to explore. And I think that will help you out.
Yeah, that'll help you narrow the focus for sure. And I think like you said like, oh, I want to run this campaign for a year. I think if you're a new DM, and this literally happened to me, is like, I don't think you... I don't think you will know. I don't think you will know, because I remember when I planned out the 13 Islands arc, and I was like, oh yeah, this is going to be like a section of it, and then we're going to go to the 3rd arc, and then it's going to be over. The 13 Islands arc of Argot, which was the second one, was like 2 years long versus the other like 2 arcs, which the third arc, when we finally finished the story out, I think that was like a couple months.
Yeah. It was like 10 sessions,
Yeah, it was like 10 sessions, and like the 13 Islands was like 50, I think.
Yeah, it's always going to take longer than you think, and that's
will grow in the telling.
I think that's
literally that is like the only thing that's true about any TTRPG is that you might think that it's a really easy thing to play, and like, hey, this is a quick little story. It's going to take at least twice as long, probably 3 times as long as you think it is.
I mean, I think that kind of goes with what I was saying about be ready to throw that out. You know, just as an aside, you said don't create these dialogue trees, and you said don't create a whole. And I happen to like
I've done both of those things.
Oh yeah, and
Well, I think you can make a cosmology.
No,
yeah.
Oh well, sure. Yeah, you should make a cosmology.
You should, yeah.
But planning out every little detail, I did do that. It's not worth your time. It is a path of madness. But I'm looking at my notes here, where I have literally a whole dialogue tree, and this is in a campaign that has so much luggage, and as a result, dear listener, I myself have decided I think we're about to hit a year of hiatus for that game. I needed the time personally, mentally, but now that I have taken that time to address other things in life, I'm kind of stalling to pick it back up because I'm like, oh man, remember all that luggage that I had with this game that I don't really want to address? So don't do that to yourself.
That's how I felt with Argot, because I had planned out every island of the 13 islands, and then when you guys finally got to whatever like the last couple islands were, I was like, I planned this 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I am a different DM and a different person.
Yep.
And it's like, so I highly recommend like if you're just starting out as a DM, like just plan out like a short nice little adventure. And then if that builds out into a campaign, you know, I would even say, you know, I think we've talked about this before, but like start with a one shot and then build it out. And then it's like, if they want to keep going, build it out into an adventure. And the adventure becomes a campaign.
This might be helpful or it might not be. But also if you're just starting out as a GM, give yourself the every other week schedule.
Yeah.
Because I think you're going to burn out if you're trying to do stuff every week.
Yeah.
But with 2 weeks, you can do something, set your adventure, see how it goes. And that gives you 2 weeks to sort of adapt to what they've done, to what your plan was, and make something that seems like it's intentional and cohesive versus just like, I don't know where we're going. The game's getting away from me. It's going off the rails. You definitely have that buffer time to work out what the players have done to your game, to the game that you wanted to run.
I would also say, like, if this is your first time, I would very, very heartily suggest, yes, do a one shot, do like a smaller sort of thing before you really jump into a longer campaign. Because it's just going to be easier, and maybe it will grow into a campaign from that one shot. I mean, a lot of very successful properties have that happen to them. But I think that my greatest success when I was learning, was to say, okay, I really like casino heists. I'm going to build myself a casino heist. And I'm going to run some folks through it and just have a good time. And like, that was a really good way to start to DM, because then you get a sense of like how people interact with things, especially if you're working with one specific group. You start to learn their play styles a little bit. And then also you get to have fun as you're running the thing that you wanted to do, and it's small and well contained. And that's, I think, also why I like mysteries, because they are sort of have a fence around them in some ways. And you could at any time be like, and the mystery's over. You did it, and we're stopping forever. I'm not doing it anymore.
It's funny that you're mentioning that, because I think we've talked about this before, but holy shit, man, my mind is blanking.
It's all those burgers we just ate.
I guess so. Shit. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, so we have definitely talked a little bit about that before.
Yeah.
You want to give yourself something to ease into. And I think that is a good approach. With that, you really want to, I would say, consider just easing into something that's already been built by someone else.
Yeah. A module's not something to be ashamed of.
Not in the slightest.
The starter boxes are there for a reason. Yep. Everything you need to like practice and kind of learn what your style is going to be and how you want to interact with the elements. And then start writing your own stuff.
Yeah, find one even just that's a setting that you think you might want to live in after you're done whatever starter adventures in there. Like the Radiant Citadel, when we did that module review, that has like a 1 to 5 level sort of section of it. But then it has like, it opens up and you can just do whatever you want in that setting afterwards.
For sure. Absolutely.
A lot of those have that built in. Like Curse of Strahd's a little different because there is sort of a one end goal of killing Strahd. But there's like a ton of them, like the Candlekeep Mysteries and stuff like that. Like all of those are really great starters. And I think that you really shouldn't be worried about, you know, completely using someone else's material to start yourself. And if you're not in D&D or in Powered by the Apocalypse or any other TTRPG, there's also no shame in taking a movie that you like or a book and saying,
we talked about that,
and just being like, I am going to redo this and I'm going to make that my starter mystery, and we'll see, or mystery, your starter thing, and then go after that. Because chances are, if you're gathering around a group of your friends, then they probably are similar to you enough that they'll probably also like that property. Because, you know, we like people who like the same things as us.
I think I was going to say, I would also recommend just like, you don't have to go with, I would recommend one specific adventure, which is the one that you guys were starting with my hacked OSR game.
Yeah.
It's a
really fun.
There's a 5e version of it, and we like barely we did like 2 rooms and then left.
But it was also like we had a blast in those 2 rooms.
It's called it's just a really short. I mean, I guess it's a short adventure. It's called Winter's Daughter, and it's put out by the Old School Essentials people, Necrotic Gnome. And there's a 5e version of it if people are more interested in doing 5e. But I think what that does is like it's a dungeon, like if that's not like your thing, but there's a lot of different ways to tackle the different like elements of it. And this was the thing that I forgot earlier. The thing with like the mysteries, like when I think the prep thing, like back to like not having an answer for everything, like just think about like, don't think about all the different ways that your players could solve something, because that way also lies madness. That is the same thing that is similar to like, you know, building out the dialogue tree and like, you know, trying to predict everything that they could do. Like just have like things, just have the situation, just have the item, and then see how the players interact with it and play with it. And I think that's something like in that Winter's Daughter module that you guys were playing, like you guys were interacting with the environment in ways that I did not even consider. Yeah. Which was very cool.
And so we also refused to interact with certain parts of the environment that were obviously built to interact with. Like we opened a room and there were ghosts dancing on the ceiling, and we were like, no fucking way. And we closed the door and walked the other way.
We were there for that. That was not our vibe. We were there looking for stuff to pick up and take back into town.
To sell for our old bones.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot to be said for that, like, old style of play of just being like, hey, you're just going to a place and you're getting a thing and you're coming back.
In fact, I think that
it's like a simpler way. It's like an easier way to ease into it. And then from that, you can still build out like maybe something that is a little bit loftier, where you have like, you know, motivations and you have like NPCs that you want to interact with and stuff. Like the NPC that I improvised on the spot, Kid Wizard, a kid wizard who asked you to bring back this ring.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know, I just made him up. He's a kid wizard.
And he's like, hey, I have curfew, so if you could come back before 11, that would be great.
Yeah. Classic kid wizards.
I also really like the idea of don't try to lump all of your story into the first session anyway. I think it's a really great idea to just be like, do a fetch quest.
Yeah.
Because then you're allowing your characters to build their own sort of prologue together before they start into like the real story, if you think of it that way.
And your players will tell you what stories they want to play.
Yeah.
And also their characters' stories and choices will give you things to build with. Yeah. So like, don't discount your players as a
Well, I was going to say you're providing the land, they're going to set the roots, and then you just nurture it from there. But knives you can twist also.
Yeah,
works.
you can also start burning down parts of the forest. Like I made the big bad, but also quest giver be the one that killed your mentor. And you only found that out halfway
for some reason.
Oh no! Brendan Lee Mulligan also was talking once about how he had developed a whole like city that he was going to have the players play in. And it started out at a wedding between this dwarf princess and this guy that she obviously didn't want to marry. And the whole thing was just set dressing for them to go into the city afterwards and be like, this is the city, this is the world that we live in. They decided to, at this wedding, kidnap the princess, but they're like, she doesn't want to marry you. And then like get in this wagon and just wagon away. And then it became essentially Mad Max Fury Road for the rest of the campaign of them just trying to outrun the dwarven like monarchy. And you know, if that's what happens too, and like I think that this is something that DMs have a hard time with sometimes when you have something that you want to tell. If your players give you a firm, we want to do this, say yes to it because that's also they want to do that, and it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun.
Also, I will give sort of a this is a pitfall that you could also fall into. Make sure you give them things to want, though.
Yeah.
There was a campaign that I was in. Nobody in the room. But it was basically like we started in a tavern. Somebody had like an object, like clearly like a magical object or something. We end up having a bar fight and just like everything kind of goes wild and kind of goes off the rails or whatever. And we were like, okay, we steal the thing. And then it's like a thing, it's like a root or something like of a tree or something like that. And we're like, okay, we're gonna stick it in the ground. And then he's like, okay, so you guys do that? And I was like, yeah. And then it grows into this huge tree, but then it apparently starts like this like apocalyptic event or something like that. But it wasn't really something, and I don't think that was necessarily like bad or whatever, but it felt very aimless. And then we were given like this flying paper boat, and then we were kind of flying all over the map, and he made this like globe-sized world and map that we could look at. And he's like, okay, which direction do you guys want to go in? And it's like, this sandbox is too big. Like, I need more direction. Like, I do need slightly more information and slightly more things to be like, what would I want? And I don't know.
A great way to start to like going back to the fetch quest thing and to talk about like having too much space. Mm-hmm. Like a great way to start is saying like, what's your name? Oh, my name's like Johnson McJohnson. And it's like, well, Johnson, we
terrible
like,
name.
Yeah, like we
Abraham Washington.
we first see you as you are being thrown through the window of a bar, and like Grits, your loan shark, leans over you and says, "Get 30 gold by tomorrow. This is your last chance." Walks away.
Did you just come up with that?
Yeah, you basically right away. You're like, oh shit, my character needs 30 gold by tomorrow. Yeah. You're going to say yes to any quest that comes
that's
in.
a hook.
I do make sure, of course, that the player's character was a gambler. Like, that's something you establish with the player. But
yes. But, like, and that's the thing as well is that...
Or it's a case of mistaken identity.
Yeah.
And the guy doesn't give a shit. And he's like, I still want it from you.
That rug really tied the room together.
Yeah. It could just be like, it doesn't have to be something like that. It could just be like, even if your players haven't done any backstory work, then you can really do whatever you want to them because they fucking didn't do the work. But if they do work and they're like, yeah, I'm a dragon hatcher person, and like they're trying to be a Drake warden, they have this like egg that they're trying to do or whatever, then maybe you like, we meet McBoobleson as he wakes up in the middle of the night.
A town.
Well, it's now a person, Franco.
It's a town named after someone, Franco. Obviously, it's the McBoobleson family.
The famous McBooblesons, the Drake hatchers.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, maybe you like have that character the first time you meet them. They're waking up in their room and all they see is a shadowy figure with a pouch that contains the egg of the Drake that they were raising, and they jump out the window. That's your first 5 levels until they hatch that Drake. Like, they can just be trying to find that egg. You know what I mean?
Oh, damn it. Sorry.
Damn it.
No, it's a really good idea. One of my characters is playing a shadow sorcerer, and then he keeps like really being like, she really wants a dog. She's almost at this level where she gets the dog.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, man. I should have thought of that. Should have been like, oh, you have like a puppy that you're whatever.
Yeah. I mean, it's not too late. Are you doing milestones?
Yeah, I am doing milestones.
Yeah, just hold that milestone off for a little bit and then introduce the dog.
Yeah.
We'll see.
But
raising the dog becomes milestone.
Or you can make the dog be something a little bit more nefarious, like maybe a shadow dog crawls out of her shadow and has like gleaming red eyes, and then she's like, "I don't want the dog. I don't want the dog."
Oh, that's great.
It could be a representation of her wants.
Yeah.
So, so we talked a little bit about saying yes to players, which is very important.
Yeah.
You do need to be prepared to say yes.
Yes to the dress.
Yes to the dress as well.
I need that dress.
But I think that as a new DM, there is a pitfall of saying yes too much.
I think I'm going to fight you on this because I truly think your first session, if you are a DM who's trying to hook someone,
Sure.
has to be a fucking blast.
They
They have to be like, I can do anything. So that they want to sit down again. I truly think that.
Here. Let me give you some. Let me give you a scenario.
Yeah.
I got your back.
Yeah, I know. We're together here.
Chaos
all right.
monsters.
All right. So that I really do want to facilitate every little hope and dream anyone can ever want.
Yeah.
In that campaign that I was talking about, where I overplanned every single little fucking thing imaginable. I was very yes to just about everything. There are a couple things where I was like, no, because that's not how this world works and things like that. Like, sorry, Jackie, I know you want your elf to have a beard, but elves don't have beards in this world for some reason because I was a young man and that's what the player handbook said. And I was like, I just want to stick with that, make it easy for myself. However, let's say that your player comes to you, says, great, I'm really excited about playing D&D. I have been playing D&D for a little while. I'm excited to see what your style is like. And I do a little homebrewing. Would you mind if
I think that we're thinking about different things. I was thinking that at the table, in game, if they're like, I want to use my sword. I want to basically take my plated hand, grab the other side of the sword, and use that to go down like a chain that's holding up the drawbridge.
Fine.
Then I'd be like, fuck yes, do it. Let
Encourage
them have a blast. If they're like, hey, I want to min-max the shit out of this game, then
Well,
don't do
also
that.
saying, I think we said this in the previous episode, where it's make sure the players know that, or kind of enforce the idea that just tell me what you want to do and then I'll tell you what to roll.
Yeah.
Because if they want to do that cool sword thing, just let them know that the space is open to do whatever you want. If you can think of that, you can do it, and I'll figure out if you have to roll for it or not.
But I will still caution, you should be saying yes, and but keep in mind that sometimes people say things or think things in the free open space that they don't really think about what the implications of those things are.
They don't really know what they want.
Yeah. And they may be saying something that is extremely problematic. I want to romance the king here.
Yeah.
And get his kingdom by romancing him. You could say yes to that, but that needs to be a long format.
It's not one roll.
Yeah, correct. It can't come down to a single goddamn roll. It needs to be a long thing. So you kind of just need to be prepared to say no on certain things. And you'll kind of know when is yes and when is no.
If something feels game breaking or sort of or if something feels unrealistic, think about it, it's kind of like a real world simulation.
Yeah.
Sort of.
And
if there was magic.
Here's the yes once thing. If you have a rogue with sneak attack and they want to kill a guard to the bandits camp without going into combat, you can say yes. Who could you be talking
about?
But then you can't. But then they're gonna try to go through that entire camp and kill everyone without going into initiative at all. So yes once, but you got to set that expectations.
But here's the thing: is that especially, and I think that
you're stealth checks.
I think you're. I think
murder the whole spot.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I think that you're correct in saying putting parameters, and I think that Shade, you're also right in Franco saying it's a real world simulator. But on that first session, this is your chance to hook them and to make them love D&D.
But you're also setting expectations that whatever they want to do, you're going to say yes to.
Oh man, and
in the second game, you're going to be no.
So
having to reset
and you don't want to. You want to also have fun. You want to not be I'm going to be the people pleaser who's doing everything for them and stuff like that. You're already making the whole world. You're the world to them.
Yeah,
and they want to kill everybody in the spot without rolling initiative.
I have a good example of this. I ran D&D for my parents.
Yeah,
lovely people. They have some experience with it in the past, but nothing really serious. And I was like, hey, you're here. Let's try some 5th edition. We've been talking about it for a while. Let's really do it. And my mother is a sweetheart, and she, we would be in fights in the game. and and she, they're level 1, I think maybe level 3 I might have given them, I forget. And she said, I want to open a hole in the earth to swallow up the enemy.
Yeah.
As her opening turn.
Right.
An ability that she just absolutely does not have.
Yeah.
That's a really fun idea. And so I think you need to kind of figure out that middle ground of like, well, that's really fun. Let's look at your rules and things like that. Yeah.
Man, it's different for every system too. I think
is.
Like, yes to that. I guess for me, what I am really trying to caution against is the sentence that goes something like, that doesn't really work in my world. That's sort of like whatever. Like, it's your first session with somebody. Let them do the fun thing, even if it like. And you can always attach consequences to it. Like if she wants to use the open earth thing, maybe you like say, okay, roll an Arcana check. This is like very rule bendy, but roll an Arcana check. It's super high. You feel that the earth goes soft, but you just don't have the magical power in you to do this yet.
Yeah.
But you know that one day you're going to do it. You see like one of the guards trip or whatever. One of them goes prone because of that.
To be fair, that's more or less what I did. I said, hey,
because you're a good DM.
This is something you feel maybe one day you have the ability to do this, but right now the power's just not there, and we figured out something else. And then she started to really kind of lean into her character sheet a little bit more and go, oh, I'm a paladin. I should be smiting and things like, or whatever level we were. And that's just one of the things. I'm with you 100%.
Yeah.
I want to give them the world in every session that I do, but you also you need to be prepared to say no sometimes.
I see Daniel smirking.
I don't want to give anyone the world. I will give you your world allowance.
Yeah.
Week to week.
Daniel will ask for the world, but will not give it to you.
Damn, buddy.
I never want to ask for the world. This is
why doesn't
character
Shield
assess-
work this way?
It should have worked based on what we had just seen.
Don't pound on the table.
Sorry.
Come on, guys. We're professionals now.
Yeah.
Jesus. I just watched a monk
Okay.
free fall
All right,
ballerina
hold on.
down the
Anyway.
side of a cliff.
So
We're
anyway,
gonna adjudicate. I've already adjudicated this. This was me. This is me being called out.
This is 2 years ago.
A monk stepped down with this monk ability or whatever, and then this fighter wants to fall all the way down and I guess do the same thing. Yeah, I probably should have let you do the thing. But then you're like, okay, I'm just gonna. Well, I should have let you try to hop onto the lemures as you whatever, and then you probably fail.
Little shield covered plank.
Yeah, and then you're like, oh, I'm gonna cast shield as I fall, and it's like, that's not what the spell says.
That's not what it says.
So anyway, say no to your players sometimes.
Yeah.
Be prepared for that.
But
Especially
I guess
if they know the rules.
yeah, let's.
Or play with Nick, and Nick will let you do it.
That's
Yeah,
true.
I do let people.
I've never. Oh, I guess we did a Tomb of Bill Annihilation.
Yeah, Tomb of Bill Annihilation. But so this is something we talked about off mic, and I think this whole conversation is kind of about this as well.
We exist off mic.
Oh my god. that there are 3 different elements of a table, and at least 2 of them have to be present for them to be, it to be a good time and for it to be a successful session.
Nick's 3 boilers.
My 3 boilers, as it were. And they are that the people have to be nice, the story has to be interesting, and the game has to be fun. And you only need 2 of those. Like, everyone can be real dickwads to each other, but if the game is super fun and the story is interesting and everyone's invested, who cares?
I feel like the people have to be nice is an enshrined one for me.
I don't know. But this is the thing, is that we all love each other. And we're but we've all been friends for a very long time. We all really get along. But at first sometimes. I didn't. Yeah, sometimes. But there are times where we don't get along, and there's also times where we had never had met each other and sat down at a table, and we didn't know whether people were nice or not, and we were all kind of like, ugh, but it was fun and it was interesting. So
be sure to start group therapy with your D&D group.
Yeah, right away.
Almost right away.
Right away.
Start into it.
Pick someone as your team therapist. Note taker, map maker, therapist. Those are the positions you need to fill if you're a new GM.
You also need a Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, and a Spy.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm moving along away from that
boilers.
But yeah, the boilers. I think that's true that you need 3 of those things. 2 of those 3. And it really, again, I really have to encourage people, if you're going into a DMing situation for the first time, just your only goal should just be try to make everyone have as much fun as possible.
Yeah.
Because that first session is going to set a tone. And that includes yourself, by the way. Like, you have a bunch of fun too. It sets a tone and it sets everyone up to be like, yeah, I want to do this again. A lot of games kind of fizzle out after the first 3 because, the first 3 sessions, because people are trying to say, I have this huge story and I am trying to make you understand the scope of it and everything that is going to happen in the first 3 sessions. And people are going to be like, I don't know if this is for me. I've been a lot of lore has been talked at me. I don't really understand. I haven't been playing much. Like, just stay away from that. Instead, make it a fetch quest, make it fun, make it stupid, make the characters you bring in, make them be nice to the characters, make them like the characters so that the characters are like, I fucking love this guy. This guy's going to be with us the whole campaign, So
yeah, get yourself a skeletal alchemist who's very pleasant to everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
Just wants to do experiments.
Yeah. Make yourself have a college friend to one of your characters that, even though they throw tons of weird magical abuses, still hangs out all the time and loves them.
So Molly, she's great. She's my best friend.
There's something that I think we didn't really talk about this off mic, but I do want to bring up after the game, because as a DM, there's something that I don't know all first time DMs are aware of when they go in. You have a lot of feelings after a game.
Yeah.
And you need to...
Hungry.
Yeah, hunger.
Sleep.
Yeah, exactly. You need to be prepared to kind of handle it. I would say that there's a fairly common trope of the post-game sadness. I don't know, do you guys deal with this at all?
I think that you were...
A little bit.
You were my therapist during Lakewood. I'd get done a session.
Oh, you mean like campaign or session?
Session.
Post-session.
And I would send Shade a bunch of Discord messages being like, did anyone like that? Am I crazy? Is this interesting at all? And Shade would be like, no, man, you're doing good.
Oh, no, this is one of the best campaigns I've ever played in.
So, I think a lot of people go through that. Even when you've been DMing for a long time, it's something you need to kind of be prepared with, because you're, again, like you were saying, you're trying to put out a world where there's a certain amount of anticipation in your minds that may not be there yet for the players. And you walk away from that going, man, I didn't hit any of the notes that I was hoping I would hit, or X, Y, Z, or, and it will stick with you for a while. Like there are things that we've brought up today that I have absolutely made these mistakes on, where I didn't say yes about things. I mean, where I should have, and I will think about them suddenly at 3 a.m. This is a reality, and it's going to be different for everyone.
Everything we're describing are things that we've done.
Yeah.
Don't do these things, because we did them and it sucked.
I still do this. Like at Candle Cove, for both of you, there were moments where I was like, man, I fucked up that description so bad. Like, I totally ruined this element. Oh, this, like, is it at a different time of day than I want it to be now? Or, like, this didn't make any sense when I said it, and if I had more time to think about it, I could have made it more logical sense.
So first-time DMs, look forward to that feeling never going away.
So my point, though, is that, there's a certain amount of acceptance you just have to get used to. You need to just accept that, this is probably going better than you think it is. Mm-hmm. And you also need to accept the fact that at the end of the day, it is a game, and you can have earnest conversations with your players about, hey,
are you having fun?
Are you having fun? I mean, I think every time I run a game, the first question out of my mouth was this okay for you guys?
Yeah.
Thanks so much for playing. Was this okay? I think I asked that every single Waterdeep game.
Yeah.
I ask it when I do something weird, like make a key out of a person's body that needs to be stabbed.
I think you, Daniel, do a good job of bringing in experiments and then polling us, and then us giving you honest responses, because you're being very specific about what it was that was like, oh, I was doing this thing.
Yeah, certain encounters you'll be like, I was trying out this specific rule, which I think that, again, for new DMs and GMs, just don't do that. Like stick to the rules more
Yeah.
or less, and like let people do the things that like they're interested in doing, and like
Yeah.
use the rules that you understand to make the game happen. But when you're, a few sessions in, if you're like, I hate the way that feels when like someone goes down, then maybe start bringing in your own, shade. Come on, we're talking about down on the ground.
Yeah.
Unconscious at 0 hit points.
I was stifling a sneeze.
Yeah.
Certainly wasn't laughing at a joke.
Well, I was thinking more like what I was saying is more like that Daniel had a very specific question. And I think if you're a first timer or something, like you can be like, well, this was a very combat heavy session. Like, how did people feel about that? And like, this was a very like exploration or role playing heavy or whatever. And it's like, how did people enjoy that? Like, be specific about your questions. Because if you're like, how was that? They'll just go, it's great.
Yeah.
Did you have fun?
Fair.
Yes.
And then they all
Ask
log off.
leading questions. Like
Yeah.
find out like you.
You're
In
trying
the
to drill
survey
down and
writing,
get better.
You have to ask specific questions to get specific feedback. So if you're a new DM or GM and you're trying to like improve, be specific in the feedback that you want from people. Don't just assume because people are going to want to just tell you that it was fun and they had a great time.
Yeah.
Yep.
And also I think that it's really important. I wish I knew this as a GM at the beginning, that people are there are a lot of different ways to enjoy these games. And in your mind, you will think that there is one way to interact with your story in a way that will be enjoyable. And then there will be people at the table who are not, role playing with all of the characters, or maybe someone is like not interested in certain things that you wish that they were interested in, or don't seem to be interested. But there are a lot of different types of players. There's some people who really love combat, and so make combat interesting, and like they're going to be happy even if they have to sit through some of the, shopping parts. There are people who really, really love role playing and will be like just trying to romance a monster and like not interacting with that the way you want them to be, even if it's a horror setting or whatever.
My current campaign, my players are, at least a couple of them are very vocal about they don't want to go shopping.
Yeah.
They do not want to go shopping ever. I'm like, okay. I think shopping can be fun. I don't know.
And I think that like there's also different types of people that, like we said in a few episodes ago with the banter and such folks, that like there are people who just really love to sit at a table and listen to people play and to be part of that and just sort of like draw, or they are thinking about combat or whatever, but they're not interacting with the group in the same way as everyone else. They are still having fun. If they tell you that, believe them, because they are enjoying it.
Yeah, and I mean, so to along with that, asking leading questions, I would really recommend when you've got everyone at the table right then and there, hey, how was that is good. But sometimes people don't want to speak up about something in front of others, which is why I also do a follow-up to, hey, I'm doing this with your story. This is what's happening in my eyes. How's this going? What do you want for your character? After our Waterdeep thing, I said, do we want to do more university stuff with your character?
Yeah.
Do you think that the Valen's going to be doing X, Y, Z?
Serial killing. He was doing serial killing.
Oh, I don't like that. Makes me sad.
Well, we didn't get there yet, but we're building. It's going to be interesting. I
But
promise.
only bad guys.
Yeah, it's a very Dexter scenario. You can listen it onto the non-existent podcast.
It's so funny just like to think, and this is like such a insight into how a DM has to wrangle players' interest. Like Daniel is like, oh, I'm sacrificing people to my like demonic god, and Franco's doing something that I actually still don't really know, but also is at school and like
sacrificing people
to your names, yeah.
Taking their names, yeah.
taking true names.
Taking true names for people.
And then I am like in the middle of like a storyline about my character's mom, which is still unfolding.
Yeah.
And like those are very different things.
It's very different. And
yours is nice and sweet, and me and Daniel are monsters. We're like, where's my mom? She usually goes shopping on this day.
But I checked in with each of you individually is where I'm kind of driving towards this. I think that is important when you're doing those check-ins. So be prepared to ask, to just communicate with your players. And if you think something hasn't gone well, even if they do say it hasn't gone well, if it didn't feel good to you, change it up. Be prepared to change stuff.
Mm-hmm. The last thing that I really want to hit is how to deal with failure. We'll probably do a full episode on failure and stuff. Failure when it comes to a first-time DM, the only way you can fail is to make the game not fun for people. Like if you make people be like, that was torturous. I hated that and I never want to play again. There's a lot of things that you can do wrong at a table that people just sort of like swipe away. Like, oh guys, I'm so sorry. This monster should already be dead. I misread the hit points, or like this AC is actually higher than it was. I'm sorry.
Don't
this
admit
was
that.
Yeah, like you could have a lot of these things.
I say do it, man.
But there's like a lot of things that could happen that, or like you just forget a character's name or an NPC's name, which happens to me all the time. Where just like I can't keep track of all the people that folks are talking to.
Usually I forget that a monster has an extra attack. Or sometimes I'll wrongfully think that a monster has more than like 1 or 2 attacks. And I'll be like, sorry.
I would say even if you infringe on a player's backstory a little bit, like in a way that doesn't feel good to that player, you still haven't failed because you can still undo all these things. Even if you infringe in a way of like your dad like comes out of the woods and one of the characters is like, oh, I thought I told you like my dad is like in this area that it was important to my character. Then maybe that's a Doppler sent by like whatever to kill the party or something. Like you can always,
spoiler alert,
like you can always change this stuff up. You only can fail if you start getting mad at your players, if you make sure that they're not like, if you are seeing that they're not having fun, but you are being stubborn in the fact of like that something is like changes can't be made essentially. Just be flexible. Be flexible, and you're gonna succeed eventually.
I always say rules, know your rules. I will forever pound that in for any TTRPG. You should be reading the actual content. But
never read a rule book in my life.
But be forgiving on it. You're never going to know it all. It's okay to say, hey, this is how I think we're going to work it out right now. I'm going to check it out for later. Or even just say, hey, I need to think about this. Give me a minute. Try to be prepared enough that you're not every single time something happens having to go and look up a rule.
I remember there was one where I had a character was trying to jump onto the lip of a giant hourglass and grab onto it. And I was like, okay, I think that could be like, I was like, okay, make an athletics check to like jump and like grab onto that. Not you.
Okay, I was going to say, I'm trying to remember this.
No, it wasn't you. This is my other campaign.
Okay, all right.
And I was like, okay, make an athletics check and like try to make that jump and grab on and stuff. And they I think they failed it, but I think for me that was like, okay, you grab onto it, but you're like hanging on, and so on the next turn you'll be able to pull yourself up. But
that's a huge thing that Monster of the Week taught me, is that failures don't have to be binary between you succeed or you fail.
Well, it was like that or fall 500 feet
to your death.
So I was like, that's not fun.
And don't punish your players for a fail. But make sure they fail.
You can't fail if you're dead. And so one of the other players at the table was like, I think that she doesn't have to roll for that because it's just a jump. You do the whatever. And I'm like, yeah, part of it is like the catching yourself. And then I just said, let's just I'm resolving it this way and I'll look it up later and then we can figure it out later. Like, I think being comfortable with just making like on the spot rulings for like situations like that, where it's like, if you crack open that book when that person's just trying to jump onto the lip of an hourglass, that's going to be death. This is rolling initiative sucks.
Tempo is important.
Tempo is important. Rolling initiative sucks. And, and just being like, I'm just going to make this ruling now. Didn't kill her. She just kind of loses a turn a little bit. And you'll be fine.
Yeah.
You failed a little bit. You didn't make the whole jump and you can't cast Firebolt right now. It's fine.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I think that is the best way to approach failure. And then that also will make sure that everyone has a fun time in that first session, because they can try big things without the fear that that's going to kill their character immediately. Which is so important. Like foster safety, but not invulnerability.
Well, like trying big things. Like make sure if they try something that you're like I don't want to let them survive something like that. Be upfront and be like, your character probably would think that this might kill them, or maybe I didn't describe this well enough, but if you don't make this jump, you will fall onto a bunch of broken hourglasses.
Yeah, like I very clearly like just take down the fourth wall for a second during certain games where I'm just like, hey, what you just said, I'm going to let you do it. But if you fail, this is going to be really bad for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I just be very clear.
Which is also like, honestly, is a very fun thing to say and hear.
Yeah.
Like that is like, it's super funny. Like it's so like, oh.
Because
like, I remember because you did.
You're gonna bring up
so good.
The
whip.
Yeah. The whip, yeah.
Okay, so this is not how the spell works. Was it Thorn Whip?
It was Thorn Whip and Force Weapon, I think.
Yeah, it was like Thorn Whip, Force Weapon, or something like that. And your character, we were in these flying ships, and they were flying very high. And you were like, okay, I'm gonna like try to use Thorn Whip to like grab onto like a railing of the other ship. And I was like, I think that's not exactly how Thorn Whip works because you need a creature as a target. Is that right? But I was like,
some such.
And then we all started chanting "Rule of Cool," and I did too. And I was like, "That's sick. I love it." But if you fail this, you will fall into the ocean.
And you are a rock monster. You will go to the bottom.
You will fall to the ocean hundreds of feet, and you will die of a heart attack on the way down. Like there is no way you will make this. And of course, she made the Thorn Whip. Attack that hit the DC.
This is the
made
thing,
it across.
is
and
that
it's like that's fun. It kind of breaks the rules a little bit,
but it was fun.
But you were
remember
clear,
the rules are guidelines.
You were clear about there are guidelines, but you were clear about the consequences of your failure.
Yeah, because going back to what you said about it's exciting to hear it. Like I have been in a situation many times where somebody is like, "That's the stupidest thing you could do right now," and I'm like, "You're damn right it is. I'm gonna do it." So like, it's fun as a player because then you're also gonna get a sense for your players of like, what do they value? Are they really valuing these big moments of like just funny, weird shit happening? Are they valuing really being in a realistic moment because maybe then you have a different type of interaction with people? Yeah, I think that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's another important thing in general is dropping the wall. Breaking the fourth wall. There is, I think, at least when I was young and still doing like my first DMing, there was such a desire on my part to be like, no, everything I'm gonna do is gonna be
It's all in there.
It's all in the world.
Yeah, if they pay attention, they'll know.
Yeah, and I'll explain.
They read my mind.
I'll explain it from a world perspective. Like an NPC will chime in and go, explain why this is a bad idea.
That's not how Thorn Whip works.
Yeah, something like
I've never
that.
seen a Thorn Whip attached to a known creature before.
Yeah, the cloud giant on the other ship is like, I don't think that's how that works.
How is this happening?
That's not fun. And you need to, lean into that aspect of, hey, it's a game. We need to talk about this for just a second because it's a social game. Have that socialization.
Yeah.
Man, I'm sad you guys never got to fight all the cloud giants at once. Actually, because cloud giants, they can fuck you up.
Yeah, I'm not sad. I'm sad that I didn't get to romance that one. But, but it made perfect sense.
Yeah. She was cutthroat, man.
Yeah.
Woo!
Too much for me.
So as we come to the end here, can you think back to your time starting out as a GM and now what you think of when you GM? And think of one piece of advice or thing that you would want to impart upon a completely new GM. Well, what would that be?
Just do a one shot.
Just do a one shot. That's a good one.
Jesus Christ.
You're going to direct them to Jesus Christ. Okay.
Yeah. Find religion. Easier hobby of make-believe.
Oh, we got to cut that.
Damn.
That's not going to make it into the edit.
Just so we have a nice clap so you know where that is.
Right there.
I'm sorry.
Can we have one moment of...
Yeah, I don't have any advice. I think I've given it all away.
No advice, Dan?
No advice.
Okay.
Come back to me.
All right.
Shade.
Your aesthetic is not as important as you think it is.
Wow, that's fucking rude as shit.
Wow. They're
I think
brand new
yeah.
Shade. Don't
Sorry.
come at them like that.
Don't comment on them like that.
It's so true, though.
I will. I love you, dear listener and new GM, but
We're your best friends, but
could you
Come back
unpack
to me.
that? Could you
Yeah.
unpack that? I don't actually know exactly what you mean.
I'll unpack that. What you so I apologized in this episode to my wonderful wife Jackie for not letting her elf have a damn beard.
Mm-hmm.
Why couldn't her elf have a beard?
Yeah.
I regret
The
that.
only elf with a beard.
I mean,
It's like, elves don't have beards. How did you get yours?
Actually, I'll even go further on that because there was a same world, different campaign. Player wanted to play a Dragonborn. They wanted a tail. They described the character with a tail. Dragonborns don't have tails, and I was just like, oh. And then I made up this entire reason for why that particular Dragonborn had it. So stupid, so not worth my time.
yeah.
Now, there can be interesting things that can come out of that. Like, why is this the one elf with a beard or something like that? Maybe you can build something
Maybe
out
the
of that.
beard is like some sort of like parasitic
Yeah.
being
You
that
can
is
think like
attached
that.
to their
Ew.
face.
But it's so needlessly restrictive. And I think that my vision of this little world was getting in the way of, it didn't really get in the way of fun ultimately, but it is a small thing that I will forever regret. It was so stupid.
Yeah.
And
forever regret. I think you can forgive yourself.
yeah.
Shane, let me tell you,
to forgive
you
yourself.
can forgive
Oh,
yourself.
no, I mean, like it's a low regret. Like
Yeah.
it's very tiny, but it's gonna just kind of always be there, because it's just like,
Jesus Christ. My guy.
hey,
I mean, it's fine.
I don't do a lot of things that I
You
regret.
guys are still married. It's fine.
I don't do a lot of things that I regret. That's what I'm saying here. Is like the things that I do.
I do a lot of things that other people might regret, but I do not. I actually don't have any regrets.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. But no, I mean, the point being that like I could have given them more fun.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's all I mean. It could have been more fun if I was just like, yeah, fucking awesome.
Yeah, you're going off of that just a little bit about aesthetic is like the thing that you think is so important might not be the thing that other people think is so important, and that's also okay.
Yeah.
Like it can still be important to you and you can still put it in your game, but if it's really not resonating, it's also like your game is more than one idea. It can be a bunch of different things that people are going to love. So let them love those things and move on.
and let them build it with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I have my thing now.
I love it.
It took me a minute. All right, starting out, if you're gonna be like planning a session,
Yes.
only plan like 3 encounters, 3 things that are going to happen, and let your players fill up the time and do whatever they want to do.
An encounter doesn't just mean combat encounter.
Yeah, it doesn't just mean combat encounters. It's like maybe there's like there's an encounter where they go to the merchant stall and there's a performing troupe. That's an encounter where they get to like walk around, they can watch a show, they can interact with the bards. Then they're gonna do stuff, and so like that one little idea, that one little encounter session could like take an hour of gameplay.
Yeah.
So plan like 3 things you want to like do. Let your players go from there, and if you get done with what you've planned out, don't feel stressed like you have to keep going to fill like a time quota.
Yeah.
Right.
End early if you're done.
I love an ending early where it's
Yeah.
like we usually go to
No one will be upset for more time on their life.
we usually end around 10 o'clock, and if somebody's at 9:30 like, and this is what happens, and that's where we're ending it for tonight, I'm like, hell yeah, that was awesome. I can now go brush my teeth and be in bed by 10. This is great. I had a full experience and it's a little bit of time back. It's amazing.
Man, sometimes I've been like, yeah, and that's the end of it. And then people will be like, but what about, and blah, blah, blah. It was like, come on, let's just stop. Just stop playing. Let's stop playing. I'm done.
Yeah, I think that's smart, Daniel, is to like have these like 3 things that you've built out and then letting them wander in between with direction, essentially, because you already have the next encounters build. I think that the thing I would add on to that too is like, just know that in your encounters, the more opportunity for variance, the longer that encounter is going to take. Because you might think, oh, someone's going to go and do this and then they're going to leave. No, your characters are going to go and they're going to try every single thing that they can do, and then they are going to leave. Yep. So it's always going to be long. So just know that if you're like only wanting them to do a specific thing in a place, don't give them 100 other things to do while they're there, because they will do all of them.
Right, yeah.
My little bit of advice is when it comes to building story, it's very similar to yours, Daniel, is to have like guideposts along a path that you want to take them, but don't build too much in between those, because what I usually do is I come up with a genre and a setting I'm really interested in. I have like an idea of what is happening there. So those are my guideposts of like, oh, I know what's happening in this town. I know the genre and setting. So those are going to be really influential in how I describe stuff and what happens there and what they can do. And maybe I plan like a sort of confrontation or an ending if I have like a B, E, G kind of thing. But otherwise, everything in the middle there is kind of made on the go. So you don't have to create anything else other than that, so that people can, have fun and build part of the world too. Like Franco said.
Plot points should be very big and very far apart.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I think that's it for today. Any last thoughts?
No.
Head empty. Thoughts gone.
Great. My last thought is try GMing. It is so much fun. And then once you go back to being a player, you're going to be like, this is fun too, but I'd rather be GMing.
Kind of. Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of get to it where I'm like, I want to, because you have so much control over the story that's being told.
Yeah, I'm a control freak. I want to be a DM.
You're like these cool things that I want everyone to do. Like as a player, I'm like kind of just witnessing stuff. But as a DM, I get to orchestrate it. I get to be the conductor, and it becomes very, very fun. So I just welcome as a new GM. I think that you're gonna have a blast. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. It's not gonna go nearly as badly as you think it is.
Only 1 or 2 deaths usually.
Yeah, and you can find other players elsewhere.
Yeah,
so.
Just make sure to bury them deep enough.
Deep. All right, bye.
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 Thank you all for listening to another episode of Tabletop. My name is Nick Perrin. I'm the host here. If you'd like to get in touch with any of us, including me, head to our website, tabletoppod.com. We have a contact form there that goes straight to our personal emails. And everyone, if you could do me a huge favor, if you enjoyed the episode, tell some folks. Go down into your podcast app and write a quick review. I will read any new review that comes in the new year. I promise. Feel free to use that for good or for evil. You can write literally anything, and I will just be forced to read it. So feel free to do that now. If you would also like to share the episode with some of your friends, it is the best way for the podcast to gain new community members. And if you are interested in supporting the show, we do have a Patreon. We have a Discord. All of these things are at our website. Again, that is tabletopod.com. All right, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful week.